Well, good morning. I'm Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Tuesday, October 3rd, the 276th day of 2023. Leading off the headlines this morning, defeat of the House USDA spending bill last week over farm and abortion issues leaves the bill's future uncertain amid continued political chaos in the chamber. The USDA FDA bill's defeat was yet another scar in a House plagued by continued political turmoil within and between the parties, even as a majority came together to avert a federal shutdown. 27 Republicans joined 210 Democrats to kill the bill. Among Democrats, Central Illinois' Nikki Budzinski.
As a member of the House Committee on Agriculture, I could spend hours with you all walking through how cutting funding to 2003 levels leaves our farmers and working families behind.
While Budzinski complains the bill was weaponized to attack women's access to mail-order mifepristone that the FDA says was safe. Wisconsin Democrat Mark Pocan complained the bill disrespects America's farmers.
This strips assistance for 104,000 farm loan borrowers. If you're a farmer who uses the Farm Service Agency for things like loans or disaster relief, this bill cuts FSA in addition to conservation programs like EQIP that help farmers improve their operations and output. If you get energy assistance as a farmer, good luck with that. REAP fund will be cut by over $500 million, making your energy costs go up in rural America.
But Maryland Republican and Ag Appropriations Chair Andy Harris mocked Pocan's claim that the bill cuts USDA FDA spending to 2001 levels.
We are not cutting spending to FY 2001 levels. We are cutting them to pre-COVID levels because, Mr. Chair, the pandemic is over. The freewheeling spending during the pandemic has to end. A $2 trillion deficit and an open southern border are existential threats to this country.
The House then passed 3 spending bills plus one earlier and will take up 2 others this week, but not USDA, as Congress races to finish all 12 by a new shutdown deadline, November 17th. Well, the August milk margin triggered the 8th consecutive payment for dairy producers who obtained dairy margin coverage for the 2023 program year. August's income over feed margin is $6.46 per hundredweight, with projected DMC payments totaling $120 million. To date, including the projected August payments, dairy producers have received more than $1.2 billion in much-needed economic support for 2023, and margin forecasts indicate the likelihood of more to come before the end of the calendar year. USDA Farm Service Agency Administrator Zach Ducheneaux says while livestock and crop producers alike have been financially impacted by catastrophic natural disaster events, dairy producers' financial stressors have been compounded by significant market volatilities. DMC is a voluntary risk management program administered by USDA's Farm Service Agency that offers protection to dairy producers when the difference between the all milk price and the average feed price, the margin, falls below a certain dollar amount selected by the producer. Well, as red crown rot begins showing up in soybean fields in parts of the Midwest and Kentucky, it can get mistaken for other diseases, including sudden death syndrome. Phil Krieg, an agronomic service representative with Syngenta, talks about what to watch out for.
Red crown rot is a relatively new disease that we're seeing in the Midwest. We've seen a pretty good uptick in it in the last 4 years. Foliar symptoms are going to show up in that R3 to R5 reproductive mode in the soybeans, and the stem symptomology will show some red brick discoloration of the lower stem at the soil line, moving up the stem just a little bit. Below ground symptoms can show some red organisms growing on those lower roots. However, the foliar symptoms mimic those symptoms that we see in sudden death syndrome. So this is a little bit of an issue in that you have to do your due diligence in the field when you see those foliar symptoms so that you don't confuse it with sudden death syndrome.
He talks about the similarities and differences between red crown rot and SDS.
We've been dealing with SDS for probably in the area of 30 years now, whereas red crown rot is somewhat new and it is spreading relatively slowly. The The infection occurs to the seedling at and about emergence time. So that's a major similarity between the two. The leaf symptoms can be very similar when you first see the initial onset of the disease. The key difference is that SDS tends to infect that seedling in cooler, wetter conditions at emergence time, while red crown rot thrives a little bit better when the soil is warm. So there are some distinct differences between the two, and very important that when we do see these foliar symptoms, that we do our due diligence to make sure that we are diagnosing the correct disease.
Krieg has a recommendation for protecting against those yield-robbing diseases.
Saltro's fungicide seed treatment appears to have some effect on red crown rot as well as sudden death syndrome. Now we know with Saltro we get very good sudden death syndrome protection, robust nematode protection, and with Saltro seed treatment we do not see the crop injury that we see with some of the other products that are similar in the marketplace. Also, we've been able to get what's known as a 2EE label for the suppression of red crown rot throughout the Midwest. So you can see we have a nice big footprint with Saltro seed treatment for red crown rot throughout the Midwest, and do have the appropriate labeling for the suppression of that disease. My recommendation to folks is to, first and foremost, if you see the symptomology, diagnose it properly. And for both diseases, along with cyst nematode protection, use Saltro seed treatment on your soybeans.
Well, the corn crop is rapidly maturing and harvest is pretty much on schedule. More details from USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
For the U.S. corn crop over this past week,
not too surprising, no condition change for the U.S. corn crop.
Still rated same as last week at this time, 53% of the corn good to excellent condition, 18% poor to very poor. And USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says that's just about how the crop's going to end up.
The reason why we're not seeing much change is because at this point we have 82% of the crop fully mature on October 1st, well ahead of the 5-year average of 75%.
And last season, 73%.
Meanwhile, the corn harvest advancing 8 points during the week to reach 23% nationally by October 1st. That is ahead of the 5-year average of 21% and last year's 19%.
Corn harvest probably a little slower than you might expect, but
a lot of folks just leaving the corn out there. Conditions are ideal right now. It's quite dry.
Good conditions for dry down, saving a few dollars on propane. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
And there's a little bit of a surprise in this week's USDA report on the condition of the soybean crop. Here again is Gary Crawford.
On Sunday, when USDA soybean crop watchers submitted their weekly condition rating reports to USDA,
we did have maybe a bit of a surprise on the condition this week.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says the overall soybean crop came in this week with 52% of the crop in good to excellent condition, 17% poor to very poor.
That is a 2-point increase in the good to excellent ratings from last week's 50% and a 1-point decline from last week's 18% very poor to poor.
Meanwhile, the soybean crop rapidly maturing.
And so 86% of the U.S. soybeans dropping leaves by October 1st.
But farmers have only harvested 23% of the crop for good reason.
And just like corn, it pays to leave the crop out there to dry down when conditions are dry and warm.
And that's what producers are doing. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
And finally this morning, Smithfield Foods and Hy-Vee partnered together to donate several tons of food, over 100,000 servings, to the Food Bank of Iowa on Tuesday. The donation will provide high-quality protein to people in 55 Iowa counties who are struggling with food insecurity. Michelle Book, CEO of the Food Bank of Iowa, said high meat prices on the shelves make protein donations especially important right now.
We're just thrilled. Protein is really difficult for a lot of Iowans to afford at the grocery store right now. So this fresh, lean, clean pork product will go out to 55 counties immediately. We'll put it in inventory today. The orders will be picked and pulled, and it will be in 55 Iowa counties later this week.
It takes a large community effort to feed those who are food insecure. Book said that Smithfield, Hy-Vee, and the Food Bank are all about food, so it makes sense for them to come together.
Well, we're all in the business of feeding people, Smithfield, Hy-Vee, and Food Bank of Iowa. So it makes sense that we would come together in this effort of making sure food insecure Iowans can put food on the table as well.
With this massive donation, Book said their new expansion is getting put to good use.
Well, we just took possession of a brand new, very large freezer June 1st, and this will help fill it up. It won't stay long. It's going to come in. It's going to go right out again. But this is why we built the expansion, so we can accept more frequent and larger donations of meat and produce.
Book added that this event also fits perfectly into their fall donation campaign, Meet the Need.
This was a great opportunity for us to kick off our Meet the Need, Meet MEAT campaign this fall. So if you can contribute to Meet the Need, go to foodbankiowa.org to contribute. Or if you need help right now, go to Food Bank Iowa, click the Get Help button to find a pantry near you.
For more information, visit foodbankiowa.org. A special thanks to Riley Smith of the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network for that audio. Well, you can keep up with the latest in the world of agriculture by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go this harvest season. We'll get you through those long, challenging days this fall. Well, I'll be back again tomorrow with another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great day, everybody.